All right. This N-scale module, John and I, we both love model railroading and Glacier National Park. And so it's easy for us to decide what and where we're modeling. We it would cost a lot more money to go 1,800 miles to actually go to Glacier Park, or to go to Essex, Montana, where it's the best train watching in the world. It seems just a great place to watch trains. This N-scale layout's a representation of Essex, Montana, and it's under 19 square foot in size. Though, if you may not know it, but Essex is located in northeastern or northwestern Montana on the main line of the former Great Northern Railway. It's now the BNSF. The main line follows the southern border of Glacier National Park. Essex actually began in about 1892 when it was called Walton originally. And in the 1930s, they changed the name to Essex. It's 4,000 feet up on a mountainside in an area known as Marias Pass, which is also the lowest crossing of the Rocky Mountains in the United States by a railroad. Essex is and has been a place where railroad maintenance personnel have been stationed since the beginning. Many buildings and structures have come and gone from there over the years, but the largest structure ever created in Essex is the Isaac Walton Inn. It opened in 1939, and it was for the railroad workers to have a place to stay. That was its original purpose. Now it's an inn that hosts railroad enthusiasts, skiers, people just going through and going into Glacier National Park. It is a train watcher's paradise. It has a small yard that's used for a variety of purposes, including stationing helper units to get trains over the summit, as well as snow removal, firefighting cars, things like that. In today's tour, you're going to see slides side by side of a prototype picture of the Essex area, and then the model that was modeled after it. So it makes it easy for anyone not familiar with the area to compare the similarity between the reality and the model. So in the side by side, you'll see what John basically did. He was did this for his scenery certificate in the AP of the NMRA. This is an overall shot looking from west to east.
And the track arrangement we modeled there is the actual one that's there today.
And the left is the photo of the Isaac Walton Inn, and the right is a photo of the model of the Isaac Walton Inn.
What you see behind is this layout is surrounded by photorealistic backgrounds, and that which really helps to give it a convincing look. And actually, I modeled that in out of bits of wood, foam, paint, and photo. That is a photorealistic building, so that's about as convincing as it can look, a photorealistic building against a backdrop. I could post that on sites out there and nobody would have any idea.
The small structure, pump house from 1942, along with the generator house that's newer than that. Left is the photograph, but to me the left looks like one of the plastic models that you'd make. And then the right is the one that John did.
Yeah, the real one needs to be weathered so it looks more realistic.
Right. Again, one of the storage buildings. And I'm really not sure what those two little rectangular things on legs are out in front of that building, but we modeled them to be similar.
Yeah, I took those pictures 2 years ago, and for the life of me, I have no idea. They're like containers. I have no idea what's in them.
Another view of the storage building. And the engine house. That's the original engine house, was from 1892. And if you look at the photo on the left, you can see the original concrete, which they covered with an aluminum siding.
They made them to last.
Yeah, they did. That old water tower is still there. It gets photographed a lot. I'm not sure it's really I don't think it does anything except collect rust right now.
Yeah, that was the third and last water tower in Essex history, and I'm surprised still there. They haven't scrapped it, but it was there the last time we were there 2 years ago.
And the depot was moved in 1992. It's gone now, but left is the actual photograph and the right is the model. The old schoolhouse.
I'm sorry for the quality of the picture, but I'm in the Great Northern Railway Historical Society, and I searched high and low for pictures in the pictures of that schoolhouse. That is the only one I've ever found anywhere. The one on the left is 1924. It's in a book. It's not a very good even picture in the book, but I replicated on the layout, even changing the photo to a black and white sequence. And actually, it's still there today. They've converted it into 4 little hotel rooms overlooking the Isaac Walton Inn and the track. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, they picked it up from that spot and moved a little farther east. And the section house, the actual one, and it still exists, but they've moved it, and I don't remember where they moved it to.
It's back there in the town. This is a kit from the Great Northern Railway Historical Site. It's actually a laser kit and put together lots of little parts of it. It's an absolute replica of the scale house they had. They had these in several locations, but this is the picture of the one in Essex in 1920 on the left.
And then the general merchandise store on the left is the actual photograph of it. On the right, that little building is probably like a 1-inch square cube, and it has over 44 boards in it.
Yeah, 40
right?
some odd boards.
Yeah.
I had to hold it under my magnifier to piece that together. I'll tell you, this picture, you can really appreciate it looking at it, because looking at the board, it's just so small, it's hard to tell. I even took the picture of the sign and actually did like the photorealistic sign on the model building.
And a picture of the configuration of the tracks and the placement of the buildings and the water tower. And this was just a scratch-built, kit-bashed radio tower that John put together. Not meant to be identical, just meant to have a radio tower there where it belongs. The main line through Essex, we had similar locomotives, so we put them on our picture as well. The pedestrian bridge that goes over to where there's cabooses over there where people now can stay in, it's like a little apartment that people can rent out and stay there. But the bridge itself, John kit bashed and scratch built part of it as well.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. The top of that bridge, it actually hooks over the top of the bridge, and I don't know if that's to prevent someone from jumping off or climbing up and taking pictures, or why it's made like that. But it was very difficult to make the top of that bridge. I did as well as I could. In real life, it's great. They've actually left a couple of slots up in the bridge, so when you're taking pictures up there, you don't get pictures of the chain link fence. It was real interesting about 10 years ago when this bridge ever showed up. When you went over to stay at the cabooses or the schoolhouse or go skiing, you physically had to cross the railroad tracks with your stuff to get over there. So that pedestrian bridge made it a lot safer for everybody.
And some of the fire service tank cars that are there.
That is not one of our pictures on the left, but I found that on the internet. Some of the deer just standing there. People feed them too much and they are not afraid. I thought it was kind of funny. They were just standing there. So I had to duplicate that on the model.
Some of the helpers near the depot. And the Essex yard viewing south. Okay.
Yep, south.
That's right.
Kind of south and west, kind of tilts through
sort of
there.
South and west, yeah, and pretty similar. I think, I got to brag. I think John did a really good job on this And what you're seeing on the left is it wasn't taken when we wrote it, but that we've actually ridden that actual train.
FPH40, yep, the FPH40
Yeah.
version.
And
We're going to ride it out again next year.
it won't be that
It
version.
won't be that version.
No, they're a little more modern now. But having the backdrops, what I like on the right, the photorealistic backdrop, it just makes it look like it goes on forever. I really like that. Okay. Eastbound Main 2.
This was the picture that inspired the scenery module. It was just a simple one, but I saw the Amtrak crossing in front of that engine, and that's when I got the idea to try to do as much as Essex. Our regular layout is in O scale, and it fills a basement, but needless to say, you can't get close to the kind of detail that you can on the N scale layout. So that's when I got the idea to do a highly detailed version of Essex and N scale. I've got it together now. It'll be nice eventually when the world reopens. I'm looking forward to taking this out to shows and actually showing it off in person.
And one of the many snow sheds, this is the one, number 12 at East Essex. And John went down and took a picture of it. He shouldn't have been that close to the tracks, but you know, people tend to do that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Again, pictures across, when you're at the Isaac Walton Inn looking across the tracks, you see the cabooses that are up on the ridge there that people rent out. And so John duplicated that as well.
And we got all the correct color schemes and road names up there. So I thought that was a pretty convincing version of that. If you ever go out to Essex, Montana, though, it's really nice because they've got those cabooses fitted just like an efficiency apartment, and they've got decks in the back overlooking the track. Just expect to not sleep real good at night if you're not used to trains, because about 40 to 50 trains go through there a day. So there's never a long time until one's coming through.
And another shot closer of the when you're actually up there and you can walk out by them. They're all there.
Caboose Road. There's a road that leads up there. It's about a mile long. It's an adventure because it's literally one lane carved into the side of the mountain. And so when you meet another car up there, someone may have to back up for a quarter of a mile to get out of the way. Or you can stay there the rest of your life. It's your choice.
Yeah, I suggest a 4-wheel drive myself. Another picture of the pedestrian bridge from the higher ridge side looking back at the Isaac Walton.
Yeah, this is the side the cabooses are up. The cabooses and schoolhouse are on looking down toward the end.
And helpers approaching the snow shed. This is nothing to compare it to. We just took a picture of that. Main 2 near the depot. Oh yeah, got the bear in the woods.
Yeah, lots of wildlife right there. We've been lucky. I'm glad we've never seen a bear around there ourselves, but you talk to people at night and they've been wandering around during the day and they've seen several bears. I take it back. I did see some bears one time. It was a mama bear and her cubs one morning, and I was in the lobby and some people were talking about them and they were about to run out the door and go outside and see them. And I told them real quick, this is not a petting zoo. This is an actual, the Great Bear. Wow. It's called the Great Bear Wilderness for a reason.
Right.
So if you venture out too far, you do want bear spray. But occasionally, I'm told they're relatively close to the inn, and I've only seen them just one time, and we've been out there probably 7, 8, 9 times since '95.
I prefer seeing bears from a distance. One of the Rocky Mountain goats, king of all he surveys. We had to put one there to take a peek.
Not far from Essex, there's a great big long bridge called the Sheep Creek Trestle, and there's a lick there, and there's lots of goats there. You'll see lots of people pulled off watching them. Used to be there was no pull off there, and the highway would get blocked, and I guess the highway department got tired of fighting it, so they actually built a pull off in a parking lot because they knew people were going to get off there to see all the mountain goats.
That longhorn sheep is looking at you all there.
Yeah, that sun out there, it's comfortable out there most of the time during the day. There are days this sun will just burn the skin right off your hide.
Yeah.
Wild horses.
Horses, people picnicking outside the Isaac Walton Inn. They used to have a lot more tables. Now it's mostly chairs out there. Mr. Hall drives away with his pickup and his dog Duke is in the back. Last time we were there, there was actually a guy that had a dog named Duke. So we thought it was funny that this thing showed up with a dog named Duke. So we put him on the board. And this is actually the actual front of the Isaac Walton Inn. It's not trackside, so most people don't photograph that side of it. People unloading there.
Yeah, there wasn't a road up there to the 1920s or 30s. The railroad used to make money because people would have to put their cars on auto trains over in Whitefish, Montana, and they would have to take them over to Shelby until the, unless it was the 20s, 30s, I think it was the 30s when the road got all the way through.
I think so too. And somebody climbed up on that tower and took a picture of the Essex yard from it.
I actually posted that photo on a model site, and a guy wrote me and he said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, is that a real one? Are you messing with us? And I'm like, that's a model. I said, look, that turned out real good.
Yeah. And then BN engine getting some fuel. And that is the end of showing you around the scenery of the model. Do anybody have any questions?
Stop the share.
Very nice.
There we are.
Beautiful modeling.
Thank you.
We've got way too much to do with that O-scale module. I'm hoping as many people that are in this area, possibly somebody would take that on and convert that into like a modular railroad they would take up to the shows. I am going to take it with me and show it off, but we've got so much work to do on the O-scale one at home, and we have an O-scale time saver we take out to the shows too, and let people try to figure the switching puzzle. They're just, there's too many railroads, too many projects.
Right. I always like to ask too, what do you guys model in, and what areas do you model? Anybody just jump in and tell me what you do.
But don't say the word work.
Yeah, yeah, no work's allowed. No. Unless I've been working on the railroad.
Well, I've been out to that area that you're modeling. Got off at Glacier Park, and I've gotten off at West Glacier. I've never been to the Essex Lodge though, even though I've ridden Amtrak out there several times. I model the Minneapolis and St. Louis here in Iowa, so that's my focus. But I do like the Great Northern, and it's been many years ago. I took a church youth group out to the Blackfeet Indian Reservation via Amtrak, and we got off at East Glacier.
Wow.
Oh,
That's a beautiful place. The reservation was closed this year because of they actually closed East Glacier even because of the COVID. It was really hurting them bad.
Sure. Yeah.
so this is
My understanding is that, it affects the native population. I haven't heard any reports of how bad it is up there, but I just know that the tribal leadership is all ultra concerned and careful, and they basically closed everything. I mean, there's only even a couple of gas stations. I mean, they'll let people get gasoline, but they don't want you stopping in there for any other reason. So it's too bad. I would love to go to the reservation town of Browning, the trading post, to go in there,
Right.
because the entire staff are native, and it's great to talk to them.
So the railroad behind me, this is Chuck Hart, is N scale. And I model between Wendover, Utah and Provo, Utah with a portion going up to Salt Lake. So the railroad is 16 by 23 and it is in its own building. So it's rather
Wow.
convenient.
That's nice. Are you gonna do a tour for us sometime?
I could do that. I'm actually going to do a presentation on Saturday, the 19th. And I think that most of the guys on here have probably seen the link for that. So you'd find that in our Michiana division groups list. So
Okay.
So are you doing a layout tour then on Saturday of your layout?
Presentation.
no, I'm doing a specific scene that's on the layout and how we develop that scene, and similar to what you did just now for your Isaac Walton area. So
Okay.
yeah, one day I'll do an entire layout tour. I just got a new camera to put on, even though it's N scale. I've driven the camera around the railroad once already,
Oh,
and
really?
it's pretty nice. The new camera has got a Wi-Fi link, so you can watch it as you're going around using your cell phone, and then it uses an SD card or micro SD card, so you can download the video onto the computer.
That's neat.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I am modeling west of you guys. My railroad starts at Spokane and goes to Portland. And then from Portland, it goes down to Dunsmore, California. So, maybe we could figure out, I was just thinking about while you're putting this on, I thought, we could start a train in Portland. I could take it to Spokane, and somehow we get it over to Essex or towards you guys, continuing it east, and see how far we can actually get it, see if we can get a train to Chicago. An interesting operating.
We'd have to change
Are you-
scales between.
Are you doing GN or BN or SP and S?
I'm doing the very beginning of BN. My railroad is the Burlington Southern, and it's basically the line between Dunsmore and Portland. SPNS is there, and it's wholly owned by Great Northern and Southern Pacific, because those are my two favorite railroads. But BN is just starting up, so I have the old stuff.
Okay.
I still have F units on, and a lot of the old junk, But it's what I'm hoping to do, like I mentioned before we started, I'm putting that big staging yard in Spokane, and Chuck Hart has been my dispatcher, and we're going to have a couple training sessions with him, because it's going to be signaled, and the locomotive engineers will not be able to see their train. It's above their head, and they'll have to follow signals. So Chuck will basically set a route and set the signals up, and they follow signals, and we follow them from there. There'll be a few cameras up there, but it's too hard to see. And it's all built on foam, so it's an unusual layout.
Foam is your friend.
Yes, foam is the greatest stuff in the world.
Yeah.
I just added a third turntable to our glacier line, and it's at the highest point of the railroad, which is 60 inches up, and had to use 1/2 inch plywood. And because of where we're putting it, it's going to take about 3 or 4 guys to pick up this sheet of plywood, twist it and get it up over everything without breaking anything. And hopefully that includes our backs, knees, and necks. I just love foam though.
This latest add-on is on plywood, and I'm so used to the techniques of foam. As I've been tracking, glue it in. Normally, I would take a screw and just screw it down into the foam while the RTV sets up. Well, you can't do that on plywood. Yeah. So I like the 2-inch pink foam.
John, do you do
I'm sorry.
are you modeling in HO, John?
HO, yeah, HO.
Oh.
I modeled an N scale back in the early 80s, and then I can't see it. I just have a hard time seeing it. So I converted over to HO back in 94, and then I bought this house in 2008 with the intent of building an HO layout. While we were looking at it, my girlfriend and I were looking at the house. She was upstairs talking to a realtor, and I was running downstairs. And it's got a central case, and she always likes the story. She says, "Well, you know, I like that basement, but you need those two windows over there for light, and you got the closet down there. Do whatever you want, as long as they stay there." They're not there. The backdrop went right over those windows and right. And at first, I had a movable section in front of the closet, and then there's 4 layers there. There's 4 levels, and it was just impossible to line everything up, you know. And I thought, oh, we don't need that much closet space. So
at our house, we refer to the basement as my basement, and Lynn's upstairs.
yeah.
This is Mike Martin, and I helped John with his new staging. I want to tell you, he broke out in highs when he touched plywood. So
I'll tell you, I had plywood for years and years, but my very favorite story, the very, very first layout I ever did was 3 or 4 years ago in foam. It was John Allen's Time Saver, but I did it no scale, and I wanted to take it to the shows. This Time Saver is 88 inches long and 18 inches wide. And even with the track, the cork, and everything on top of it, and the backdrop, it weighs about a whopping 18 pounds. And so I go into the show, I literally put this thing on top of a rolling pool cart, and I pull it with 2 fingers. It strains me to pull it with any less. So I pull it with 2 fingers while I'm watching all these guys dragging in these huge, heavy models. And I belong to a couple of clubs where I helped carry those 90-pound corner modules. Anyway, after the show was over with, you know, I'm using my 2 little fingers, and I'm pulling my layout behind me outside the door. And one of the guys that was carrying one of those heavy modules held the door open for me, and I'm going outside, and he looked me right in the eye and he said, "I hate you. I hate you." And I said, "I feel your pain." I said, "I know what you're talking about." I said, "That's why I do foam."
There are just different construction techniques, and for each type. And when you get somebody, you know, dyed in the wool, plywood, and Homosil, which is fine and all that, and then they while we were building this, Mike can attest to this, you know, I was told, well, you can't solder your track. I said, well, the whole layout is soldered together, because I bring the foam in and it sits in there for a month before I actually use it. So it's pretty stable. And I only had one place in 12 years that I had a little track problem because of expansion and contraction. And right off the bat, I was told, well, you got plywood, you got to leave expansion joints. And I thought, oh, Lord. So it's just different type of construction. Neither one's better than the other.
You don't have to close that.
Right. I just prefer that very lightweight, especially when you're moving. I'd give anything if this thing, but this is an O scale Atlas turntable, and the perimeter of it's 26 inches in diameter. And I've actually got it cut at a 45-degree angle, so I can pop it straight up and out and then sit it right back in just easy. It's just, so when it's up where it is and I need access to everything, I literally, the center section only has track power, 2 wires, and the 2 wires to the motor. So one little plug to plug and unplug everything, pop it out, be able to reach everything. But the foam was just not sufficient to support it. And especially we have one O scale steamer that weighs probably about 15 pounds. So we had to use plywood there. But I'll use foam every time I can. The rest of my life. I'm sorry.
Most of my layout is on 1x4s on edge as box girders, and it's every 18 inches. There's support for the foam, and that's held up pretty well. But there are a couple places where I have plywood underneath it because I would have to climb up on top of the layout. And I tell people, don't you be doing this, because it's the old joke of knowing where the rocks are in the river. You
Right.
You know where the plywood is. Don't put your foot through the foam there thinking it's going to support you. It's only made to hold trains up and some scenery.
Most of my layout is built on foam. I'm in a 30 by 58 basement right now with over 300-foot main line and HO. And the scene you see up on my name, that's all built on foam right there. That's in a spot that's about 30 inches wide. And that's all foam. I guess the tracks right underneath the mine tipple, they are on an old plywood and homosote from a previous configuration, but it's all laid up on foam. So I didn't want to waste the hand laid track that was in that spot. So, but yeah, I move a lot. So the weight factor, as you're talking about, is valuably important to me. With that much railroad, to have to move it from one place to another, it gets packed up and moved again next summer. So.
Oh gosh. Yeah, this is our last one filling a basement, because last few we built have just been like the time saver module, and we're going to do an Inglenook switching deal too, and it's going to be on foam. And we ever move again, those will probably be our layouts, because it's just nice to be able to literally pick them up and take them anywhere you go. And I mean, you can do it completely by yourself. So I hope we're here for a while so we can enjoy. We're very fortunate to have a good sized basement. So
yeah. Well, next summer will be my last move, and it's in a similar sized basement. So yeah, that will.
I envy you having that big of a basement. A guy I know here that's probably about 15 miles north of me, he literally has 2,400 square feet in a basement. He has the biggest basement I have ever seen. And I think the theme for his layout is brilliant too. We're all trying to make our railroad run from Los Angeles to New York, and no one has that much room. And this guy has the biggest space I've ever seen, and he literally models a fictitious belt line around a city. He has 6 miles of track, and when the COVID is not going on, he can host 15, 20 people. And I mean, there's more switching locations than you can. I mean, it's phenomenal. Understatement of the year.
It is, yeah, and he's got it all computerized. It's just amazing what he has done.
Yes, it is.
Does he live in that basement to get all that stuff done?
Pretty much. Yeah. I'll tell you, he was smart enough. He's much smarter than me. He was a pharmacist, and the last place he lived was Atlanta, and he actually built it in sections. So when they moved up here, he popped it apart and they reassembled it here. And I was really surprised, because he told me it took about 5 or 6 guys, probably the better part of 2-3 months to get it together up here. And actually he built more up here because he's had the most space he ever did. But I'm just amazed. He's lucky, because all the work he does, he's not like me. I've had a basement layout before this one years ago in Montana, and needless to say, it's gone. I mean, everything goes into boxes and buckets, and most of the boards go in the trash. So
people ask me how long it's taken to build my railroad, and I tell them, about 6 months. spread out over 30 years.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Well, believe it or not, I can have mine torn down in less than a month and put back up within a matter of a few months, pretty much by myself with a little help. But it's all designed to come apart for that reason.
Well, you've had a lot of experience doing that.
It's been moved 10 times now, yes. So
Wow.
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 hasn't always been this big, but it's been in at least 3 locations of this size. And we're moving into another one that's similar in size. So yeah, there's been a few times it's just sat in storage because there was no place for it. So,
Oh,
and Roger, who's on
Yeah,
here, he's helped out with some of that. So he's there laughing, but yeah, I know. And Ron, I know, has seen it, and a few others who are part of this group have seen it. So we operate when we can with upwards of 20 people, if we can find that many operators. So
where are you at physically?
in the middle of Iowa.
Okay,
Oh,
very
really?
good.
What,
Very good.
what part of Iowa? I grew up in Nebraska, so.
I'm 15 miles east of Ames.
Oh, okay, sure. Sure. My best friend that left Nebraska to Iowa lived in Orange City. So I know where you are.
Well, I used to live up by Orange City, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice little town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
Well, we've lived in our current place now for 15 years, and the railroad is a work in progress. It was ironic. I had these 2 staging lanes near the top. Actually, there were 4 of them up there, but these 2 I put in, and I did not get the spacing correct. The curvature was a little bit sharper, and the cars were a little bit too long. So I finally got the spacing corrected this year about 3 or 4 months ago, and then the group had a big discussion about there's nowhere for the engines to go anymore because we keep buying too many engines. So we're taking those 2 staging lanes out, and in their place it's going to go that's where that turntable is going. So when I first started this, I pretty much thought it was just going to be pretty much me down there in that basement, maybe a person at a time or 2. And that's turned into, there's like 6 core members of the group, and we have sometimes 10, 12, 15 people show up. But right now we strictly just keep it to the core. It's just the 6 of us. And we'll generally meet Sunday nights or Sunday afternoons.
And where are you located?
The best way I could tell you is the west side of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
Not far from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're actually in a little town called Avon, which is on the western border of Indianapolis, and we are our own town.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of people haven't heard of Avon, but everyone's heard of Indianapolis.
Yeah. But the big 4 yards are here, which is what was Avon's claim to fame. way
Yeah.
back when.
We're real close to all the tracks and the action.
I know where Avon, Iowa is. I'm not quite sure where Avon, Indiana is, but I've been through Cincinnati, so. Or Indianapolis.
Like I said,
I've been around that city a couple
Right.
times. So,
yeah.
Yeah. You probably passed by Avon and not knowing that it was Avon. So.
Yeah, this area has exploded. In 1990, there were 500 people lived in this town, and let's see, 500 in the town and about 12,000 people in the township. And today there's about 15 to 20,000 in town and 125,000 in the township.
mhm, mhm.
So it's exploded along with our taxes, believe me.
I'm up here in Syracuse, Indiana, and
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, and I'll tell people I'm from Syracuse. They think New York, but
of course.
Yeah.
in the wintertime, like right now, we've got, I don't know, maybe 900 people. In the summertime, it goes up to about 22,000. The Lake Wawasee is here, so
mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
the Lakers. We love the Lakers.
Well, thanks very much for the presentation, guys. You did a great job. We appreciate seeing that. Thanks everybody for coming. I'll put the recording out tomorrow. And then we'll be off for a couple of weeks and we'll come back in January.
Okay. You all have a Merry Christmas and
You too.
a safe New Year.
Merry
Absolutely.
Christmas.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Greg,
Greg.
I'm gonna get that stuff photocopied for you and I'm in the mail here pretty quick.
Excellent. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah. And I found some decals to go with it, so
Awesome.
I don't know, how many of those cars do you plan on doing?
I don't know. I'd probably start out doing 4 of them.
Sure. I'll put 4 sets of decals in there.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, good.
Merry Christmas, you guys.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye.